Quick, I want you to name 5 things right now that you can be grateful for at this very moment. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was that difficult for you? Today we're talking about gratitude. Let's go.
Welcome to the Healthy Reasonings podcast with Dr. Andre. You are now listening to your number one source for clear, unfiltered conversations about your health and wellness. Join us every Tuesday for success stories, educational topics, and interviews with wellness experts from around the world. You can listen to this podcast on your computer, phone, or any other electronic device that streams podcasts, or download each episode and listen to it on the go. Let's get started with today's episode.
All right, healthy reasoners. So many things that we need to be grateful for. Before we even get into the topic of today's episode, I want to say that right now I'm very grateful to report that we have exceeded 2,000 followers on YouTube, and we're doing pretty well on Spotify as well. So I want to thank you, healthy reasoners, for downloading, for sharing, for viewing, for liking, for commenting. All of these things help this program to this podcast to get even stronger. And the Healthy Reasonings podcast is and will remain your number one podcast for clear, unfiltered information about your health and wellness. So that's one thing we need to be grateful for. The second thing is you may have noticed that today's episode is episode 49, which means that we are one episode away from episode 50. And I, as you might expect, have a few things up my sleeve for episode 50. I want you to keep a close eye on this channel on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, check carefully before the episode is scheduled to be released. You may see some interesting information there. We're working on ways to make this community even more accessible and to make knowledge readily shareable amongst the healthy reasoners. So I'm not going to give away too much about what's happening there, but stay tuned for big things for episode 50 of the Healthy Reasonings podcast. I also want to say, of course, that you may have noticed that there have not been any episodes for a little while. And that's simply because I had to leave my nice, lovely studio here and travel halfway across the world. I traveled to Glasgow, Scotland for about 10 days. So I was in the United Kingdom for a few days, and I had to do a training workshop there. And the truth is that the workshop was pretty intensive. And as a result of that, I really didn't have much time to do any recordings. The training went from roughly 9:30 a.m. Straight back till about 6 each day. And of course, at the different time zones and all of that, it took a little bit of adjustment. I did not even get the chance to film much video. You may have seen a few clips from when I was walking through the city.
Yeah, finally I get to spend some time with him because his course is over. So yeah, he was actually on this trip. It was just me and my mother.
Little city of Glasgow. Glasgow, Scotland. One of my favorite cities. I feel very at home here. And yeah, I could live here. But Glasgow is a lovely, lovely city, and I really enjoyed my time there. I'm back in beautiful Jamaica now, and I am grateful for that. So today we're talking about gratitude. And the reason is that I have, over the past 3 months, I've had a very emotional time. It has been difficult for myself. It has been difficult for the staff, because we've had some very heartwarming moments, some very touching and emotional moments as we deal with our various patients. And it has been difficult to navigate both for the team and for the patients. And the simple reason is that When you set out on a cancer journey, both as the doctor and as the patient, what tends to happen is there are expectations on both sides. So I have expectations about how I want the patients to get better, of course. That's my aim. I want each patient that is under my care to heal completely. And for the most part, our patients also want to heal completely. Now, what I've learned over the years is where expectations are not met, disappointment can inevitably be a product of expectations that are not met. A lovely verse that I often quote from Proverbs is that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when desire comes, it's a tree of life. And so today's episode is not just for patients going through difficult journeys, it's also for you healthy reasoner who may not even have an illness necessarily, but it is about the power of gratitude. And gratitude is simply thankfulness, being thankful for everything that is going right in your life. And I don't have any fancy quotes to share on this other than the Bible verse that I shared just now. But we're commanded in the Bible so many times to rejoice, to be grateful. And even if you're not a Christian, it's so important to understand how powerful gratitude is. I attended a symposium recently, and there was obviously, as usual, a mental health talk, which is a very topical trend nowadays as more and more healthcare providers are experiencing burnout. And one of the main things that the presenter spoke on was the need for a gratitude journal. And so let's talk a little bit about why we need to be thankful. Then we're going to talk about how to practically be thankful. And then I'm going to share some stories. But before we do that, you know what it is. We're going to break quickly for a little bit of information outside of today's topic. Here we go.
Life can be overwhelming. Stress, toxins, and the demands of daily life can leave you feeling drained, sluggish, and overwhelmed. What if there was a way to restore your energy and clarity naturally? Introducing the revolutionary coffee enema, an ancient detox practice reimagined for modern wellness. Using the power of organic, high-quality coffee, we help your body to flush out harmful toxins, so your whole body feels refreshed. Coffee enemas are simple, effective, and backed by centuries of medical practice. They promote detoxification from the inside out, without the side effects of harsh chemicals or synthetic treatments, all while gently supporting your liver function and increasing your body's natural energy levels. Step into our serene, relaxing coffee enema room at Teshuvah Wellness. It's a space designed for your ultimate relaxation and rejuvenation. Here, your comfort and privacy is our #1 aim. Try your first coffee enema and experience the gentle power of nature to rejuvenate your body, mind, and spirit. Call us at 876-787-8197 to get started on your wellness journey today. Teshuvah Wellness, return to your best self.
All right, so we're back, and we said we're going to talk about why we need to be grateful. Well, it's simple. The simple answer is this. Life has several challenges. For my patients in particular, life has several challenges. And my patients, those with cancer, those with autoimmune illnesses, various other conditions that I treat, they struggle a lot with symptoms such as pain, difficulty sleeping, lack of appetite, sometimes bowel movement issues, and other times issues related to their particular condition. For example, difficulty breathing or you name it. And the truth is that because I have that objective ability to see the situation from outside what the patient is going through, even though I'm walking with them on the journey, many times my perspective on what they are going through is going to be different from theirs. And this applies to life in general. Many times, gratitude enables us to form a different perspective on our circumstances. So, for example, all right, I'm not going to jump into stories, but for example, if you wake up each day thinking about how difficult your job is that you have to go to, or how difficult your family is to relate to, or you feel as if your family is just really not coming together and there's lots of problems within the family, then you often will have that perspective that guides your actions. And because that is a perspective that guides your actions, in principle, what the brain does is that there's an area of the called the reticular activating system, which essentially looks for more evidence of what you are focusing on. If you don't believe me, think about your room right now. There's likely to be a clock in your room, and maybe the very first time that clock was put in, if it was really quiet, you may have heard the clock ticking for a little bit. But after a while, that gets drowned out because your brain recognizes that the clock is really not as important as everything else around you. Similarly, when I grew up, when I was talking to a young lady on the phone, many times she would ask me, "Do you live in the country?" And I'd say, "No, what makes you say that?" And she'd say, "Well, I hear so many crickets chirping in the background of your phone. I just assumed that you lived in a rural area." Of course, that was not something that's not the impression I wanted to give, but anyway. It didn't occur to me that the crickets that she could hear so clearly over the phone had formed a part of my background for so long that my brain was no longer focused on them. And so the reticular activating system had regarded that as unimportant. And then the final example is that where I grew up, I actually grew up beside a main road. My house was right on a main road. And so cars were always passing, horns were always blowing, trucks were always changing gears near my house. I lived right on the corner of the main road. And people would ask, "How are you able to study or do your homework through all this noise?" And I'd say, "Well, I actually don't even hear it." So what I'm getting at is the focus that you place or you form, your brain actually will find more information to support what you're focusing on, which is why it becomes so important to focus on positive things. And one of the ways that you do that is to express gratitude. That's why it's important, because the more you identify things that you need to be thankful for, is the more your brain will train the rest of your body and your cells to find even more information to support that. And we all know how good it feels when we have positive emotions flowing through us. And so why we need to have gratitude is that gratitude actually becomes a tool towards our healing, or some may actually say it becomes a weapon that helps us to push against negativity or things that may be seeking to obstruct our healing. So we've spoken about the why we need to be grateful. Let's think about how can we express our gratitude. Well, another Bible verse says, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. And I'm a Christian, so I fully endorse everything that the Bible says. You may not, and that's okay. You will still find, nonetheless, that much of what the Bible recommends in areas like these is guaranteed to help our body's physiology improve. And so to practically be grateful, there are several ways that you can do it. You can create something called a gratitude journal, which I need to update mine because I've not sat down and penned it out for a while. And what you need to do is get a piece of pen and paper, and you can start with 20 things that you can be grateful for. And most people tend to be very generic when writing down these things, and that's not terribly helpful. So most times when I suggest this to a patient, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm grateful for life, or yeah, I'm grateful for waking up this morning, or I'm grateful for fresh air and oxygen, or I'm grateful for water. And yeah, I understand that yes, we're grateful for these things, but practically speaking, being grateful for life would not be possible if you weren't alive. So it's kind of generic, it's very general and not very specific. I find it's incredibly more helpful to write out 20 specific things that you're grateful for. So I'm going to try and do that right now. I'm going to look around my room and I'm going to think of 20 things that I'm grateful for. Number one, I'm grateful for the fact that this air conditioning unit is keeping me cool, because I've tried doing this podcast without AC and it leads to me sweating all over the place in short order. That's one. Two, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm using, many of you don't know that I'm using a very simple cell phone, an Android phone, to record this podcast. And I'm grateful for the fact that technology has allowed me to have this small device to be able to speak to you in this way. Number three, I'm grateful for the very room that I'm in, which my wife has very generously allowed me to use as a studio to begin with. It's an extra room in our house, so I'm grateful for that. Number four, I'm grateful for the people who helped me to construct the lighting for this room so that I present a product to you that is helpful. Number five, I'm grateful for a few things that are off camera here. To my left is a bass guitar, which I'm learning to play. I'm grateful for the fact that I have that because it helps me to relax. When I take it up and start playing it, here it is. In case you didn't believe me, it's right here. Needs to be cleaned. My bass guitar friends, please don't come at me. And what else? I think that was number 4, 5. I don't know. I'm grateful for these books that I've accumulated over the years. And some of them actually have more importance than others. Some of them mean a lot more to me than others. But I'm very grateful for them because they have allowed me to have the information to build on over the years. And what else? I'm grateful for that sign that you see behind me that says "Don't quit," because it serves as a reminder to me that I need to persevere for myself and for you healthy reasoners and for my patients across the world. And that's number 6, 7. We could keep going on. But the truth is that for this to be very effective, we ideally want to come up with a fresh list each day. So I could have done the full 20. It's kind of hard to do on camera under pressure because we don't edit this very much, so there are no bloopers here. So technically it would take me a little bit more time to do this. But You can see how easily you could come up with 20 things to be grateful for just by looking around the room. Now, it's more than just having those 20. And yes, for the rest of the day, you would want to keep revisiting them and reminding yourself, keeping your brain focused on what it is that you want to be grateful for, because it trains the brain to start to focus on more things that you can be thankful for. But ideally, you want to keep expanding on that list each day so that you eventually at the end of a week have 140 things that you're grateful for. It's not about the list per se, it's about the training of the mind to focus on the good. And what I've found over the years is that the patients who are best able to do this invariably are the patients who get better. It's hard work. I'm not gonna pretend that it isn't. And I think sometimes social media makes it seem trivial and oversimplifies how difficult it is, because you're actually training a muscle, as it were, in the brain to do this. But with time, you'll get better and better at it. And there's lots of evidence throughout medical literature. I'm not going to bore you with different research papers to support how helpful gratitude is. And another simple way of expressing your gratitude is one that I practice naturally, which is to express your gratitude to God. And that's always a good move, because he's always available to hear you, whether you have pen and paper or not. And he's always willing to listen. And the more you talk to him, is the more engaged you feel with him. That's another option. And then finally, a really good one, which interestingly I relearned in the workshop in Scotland, is to express your gratitude to those around you. Very, very important. You'd be surprised how many of the people around you would be encouraged and delighted to hear you express your thanks to them, not just for what they do for you, but just for their existence in your life. One of the things I went through in that workshop was we had to turn to a random person and tell them that we are glad that they exist in our world. It's very transformative. You might be surprised. So if you're watching this right now, I'd encourage you to even comment below, typing out something that you're thankful for, or someone that you're thankful for, or even type your thanks to God for something that he has given you or allowed you to experience or protected you from. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to tell you a few stories. Here we go.
In a world that moves too fast, it's easy to lose touch with what truly matters, your well-being. At Teshuva Wellness, we believe in a return to balance, to healing, to your best self. Our holistic approaches nurture not just your body, but also your soul. Whether you're seeking peace, energy, or a deeper connection, we're here to guide you every step of the way. Our medical experts specialize in holistic treatments for chronic diseases, ranging from autoimmune illnesses to cancer. Our treatments are safe, non-toxic, and effective. Because at Teshuva Wellness, your journey to wellness is our greatest commitment. Visit our website today at teshuvawellnessja.com or call 1-876-787-8197. That's 1-876-787-8197. Teshuva Wellness. Return to health. Return to your best self.
All right, so we're back. And story time has become a very popular time. In fact, I met a lady this week. If you're watching, you know who you are. Initials BW. And she said she's been watching this channel for a very long time. It was a little bit weird when she kind of just walked into my office and she was just smiling. And I said, "What's up?" And she said, "Well, it's such a pleasure to actually meet you in person, because I've been watching you on YouTube for so many months." And I said, "Well, wow, I had no idea that the reason why she came to see me was because she was watching this podcast." And I was very honored. I was very grateful. That's not the purpose of today's story. I wanted to tell the story of Miss Faye, who I know is watching, and this is Faye Spencer. The other Miss Faye I know is also watching. Hey, Miss Faye. And Faye Spencer is our original, what do you call it, OG. She's a legendary person here at our clinic in Teshuva Wellness in Montego Bay, because she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in 2019. When she came to see me, she was doing chemotherapy. You've heard me tell this story many times. And Miss Faye is now 5 years post that diagnosis. She's completely recovered. Her scans are nice and clean. She's moved on with her life. But one of the important things about Miss Faye was that even after it was clear that she had recovered, Miss Faye will be the first to tell you that she initially found it difficult to reintegrate into normal life, as it were, normal life, because she had spent so much time around doctors, around treatments, desperately trying to heal, that her brain was focused in on the need for healing. And like we spoke about earlier in today's episode, it was not focused on what everything else that was happening around. And we both found it difficult to get Miss Faye to re-engage with life, because she was still trying to understand and accept that she had healed. And Miss Faye had a wonderful life experience that happened, which is that her adult daughter got married and subsequently had 2 beautiful twins. And Miss Faye, I know you're watching, so I'm talking tales out of school. But it was as if a light bulb suddenly went off. And after 4 years of us working together, I could see a difference in her eyes. And Miss Faye said, "Doc, I think I want to go and visit my granddaughter." This is before the children were born. "I want to travel to visit my daughter so that I can meet my grandbabies. Do you think that I will be able to do so?" And I said, "Of course. Of course. You are strong enough. You've recovered. There's no evidence of cancer left back. You should do it." And Miss Faye made the journey and ended up staying, I think it was 3 or 4 months overseas, was there for the birth of her daughter's children, and was able to be there to support her daughter in the immediate period after the birth and beyond. And the Miss Faye that came back to Jamaica several months later is a totally different person. You'll probably see a video of her pretty soon, but she is absolutely full of joy. She always was a cheery person, full of joy, but also full of excitement about her family and about opportunities that she has in life. And the simple switch that flipped was the gratitude and the joy that she felt around her new grandchildren. And it gave her something to be excited about, something to be grateful for, something to enjoy. And as a result of that, it flipped her brain into looking for even more things to enjoy. And now she's just enjoying life in general. So Miss Faye continues to be somebody that inspires me. And there's another patient who I saw this past week. Initials I, that's the first initial, you know who you are. And she said something so strange to me. I've been helping her for maybe about 5 years now, and I've seen her walk out of particularly difficult time with her condition into a place where she has actually blossomed into not having much problems anymore. Her skin and her hair are glowing. Her sleep is excellent. She's exercising with lots of energy. And I spoke to her and I said, what's happening? You seem so much different. And she said, Doc, I am just so thankful for everything that I have. And she was able to tell me one of the easiest ways to know if somebody is practicing gratitude is to ask them, what are the things that you've noticed that have improved since our last visit? And usually they'll say, well, if they're grateful, they'll have at least 5 things on that list. If they're not practicing gratitude, they will often say nothing has improved. Now, as we talk about stories, I do want to point out that I totally empathize with my patients who are not yet at the place where they're able to practice gratitude freely. And the reason I do is because I have a patient who I've been helping for the past several months. And unfortunately, this patient has been experiencing, based on the location of her cancer, experiencing quite a bit of pain. And unfortunately, even though the initial assessments for this patient seem to suggest that she's improving, and even though the nature of the cancer was such that she really has defied the odds by doing as well as she had, she made a very good point to me, which is that being in pain makes those victories seem very small. And I couldn't argue with her. And so I understand what it is like if you have a condition that means that you're struggling with pain. Pain often is so distracting that it makes it difficult to practice gratitude. So even if everything else was going well, which to a large extent it was, I could totally relate to why she still felt uncomfortable and not satisfied, not as elated as I was to see how much progress she had made. And so one of the things I want to be able to personally become stronger in is to be able to help my patients when they're in pain, because there are times in which even the strongest painkillers still don't budge the pain. And I think that, as I said to her, if we can just find a way to get you out of pain, I think you'll find it easier to practice gratitude. So we have to have a balanced approach in how we present this concept of gratitude. It's not a cure-all, but it's a very good tool. I want to encourage you to create your own gratitude journal. I think I'm actually going to create, I'm going to ask my team to help me to create one that you can use. So look out for that. And I want you to type in the comments below what you're grateful for. If you don't have anything specific, just type the word grateful in the comments. And I want you to type in and let me know as well how this episode has impacted you. Let's start a conversation around it. And I look forward, because I know what's coming up for episode 50, I really look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Lots of great things to discuss. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Healthy Reasonings podcast. Remember to subscribe to this podcast so you can be updated as soon as new episodes are ready. If you have a question, send us a voice note on WhatsApp or a WhatsApp message. The WhatsApp number is 1-876-405-7831. For more information or to become a sponsor, please email wellnessdocjamaica@gmail.com. See you soon.